Hey everybody, welcome to Baseball Sim Auctions. Today we're gonna conduct the actual season simulations of an auction that Steve and I completed a couple of days ago involving the players from the 1941 Red Sox and the 1999 Red Sox. So two great Boston teams. The 99 team, not so much. They were still an above 500 team, but the attraction of that team was a great year, one of Pedro Martinez's best year. And then, of course, the 41 team featured Ted Williams, arguably with his best year, the year that he hit 406, the last time that anybody has actually eclipsed the 400 mark. So let me share my screen for a moment to show you the results of the auction, and then we'll get into the actual simulations. So again, everybody, great. The both teams were not what I would call dominant teams. The 41 team won about 84 games, if I recall correctly. The 99 team won 94 games. So very good teams, but not dominant teams. The big attraction is the superlative performance of Martinez and of Ted Williams. So in terms of the actual results of the auction, this turns out to be the players that Steve purchased. On one side, you see the hitting, obviously, and on the other side, you see the pitching. So Steve did spend a little bit more on hitting, 156 as opposed to 102. Early on, definitely hitting dominated, but actually he sprinkled in some pitching as well early on. So it was very balanced, and Steve did really a great job of balancing his money. He only left $2 unspent. Just to remind everyone, we work on the same principles of fantasy baseball auctions. So every owner starts out with $260. And the goal is to try to spend all your money, obviously. And sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way as it did with me. So this is Steve's team, nicely balanced. The only real Achilles heel is, as you can see down here, quite a bit of dollar pitchers. So even though the core of his starting staff is pretty solid, the moment you get into like the fifth starter and actually really half of the fourth starter, because Saberhagen only had about 120 innings. So about a pitcher and a half essentially of a starting rotation was pretty weak. And of course he was not strong in the relief section as well. And then when you jump over to my team, I took a different approach. I went pretty heavy on the two-star players, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And that's what I did in this particular auction. I acquired the two best players, and then I filled it in with other complementary players. Now, the one big difference between my team and Steve's team, even though my starters were not great after Pedro, they weren't necessarily awful. And then I did have some relief, which was a big deal. I had Derek Lowe, Rich Garces, and Cormier, which were the top three relievers. So that's really the big difference between the two teams. And then this next slide will show you the lineups and the rotations for both teams. So no real surprises really on Steve's team. I like those lineups quite a bit. No real surprises on the pitching side, because I know Steve likes to match up in situations where there's a clear number one. Steve likes to match up a weaker pitcher against that number one. So I wasn't surprised to see that. Some other people might be, but I wasn't. And then in terms of my lineup, I'm sure there are some old school folks out there that will argue with my lineup a bit, because I put Ted Williams up at the very top. And really my strategy is, those at-bats are so good, I wanted to just get as many of them as possible. So I toyed with the idea of putting him number two, but instead I decided, let's just go and maximize that incredible year, and I stuck him in number one. And then hopefully guys like Offram and Nixon and Dahlback do their job and drive him in. So that gives you a summary of the acquisitions for the auction and also the lineups. So what I'm going to do next is share the actual simulation game engine. And as you know, we use the APBA computer game to simulate seasons. And one thing that I want to remind everyone of is we hold a World Series, and essentially we simulate entire seasons, and every season is a stand-in, a proxy for a game. So whoever wins 4 seasons wins the World Series, and that's the way we determine the winner. And fortunately, it's a pretty strong simulation engine, and between 2 owners, you can simulate an entire season in a matter of minutes. So let me stop sharing this and see if I can share the actual sim engine with you guys. So guys, what we'll do here is let me verify that we are starting at 0, because after every season, I will have to save the stats and then reset them to 0 again. So let's just go over here to standings to make sure that we are starting at 0, 0. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Go. Perfect. So we are at 0, 0.
Excuse me.
And Steve, what I want to do is just to create a little bit more of a visual. Let me see. Once I start simulating, I'm going to switch to a different screen, and let me know if you see it or not, because it's a little bit more visual for anyone that just happens to pop in here and see what we're doing.
Okay.
All right. So let's get rolling here. We're going to simulate these games in the background, and let's get started. As you can see how quickly these games are being simmed. So here you're seeing just how quickly the sim engine simulates all these games. And right here, I'm using a background of the old Cleveland Stadium, which was a massive stadium. I think it held something like 90,000 people right by the lake there. So there are times where we'll stop midstream to see what the progress is. This first one, we're just going to let it run all the way through, and then we'll come back and we'll stop. Sometimes we like to see where we are sort of midway through the simulation and then see how it actually ends. And even though this is more visual, it does take a little bit longer.
I think I lost like 7 in a row.
Jeez.
Oof.
Yeah, that bullpen and that back end of your rotation, I think might turn out to be the difference maker.
Yeah, I spent a lot less on pitching this time.
Yeah.
I knew that might bite me, but I had to give it a shot.
And you got, besides Pedro, obviously, you got all the other good starters. The thing is, you didn't get any relief.
Nope.
All right, so I think everybody gets the idea of how the simulation works. Let me go back to the other screen because it will show us the results a little bit faster.
Oof, 18-2.
All right, we're still simming. We should be coming close to an end here. All right, it looks like we have a result, a final. We'll look at the standings in a minute, but what I normally like to do is just check to make sure we don't have any rainouts, and it looks like in this case we do not. So now we'll go up to this section here and take a look at our final standings. And it does look like, yep, my team definitely had an advantage in the pitching, I think. So it turns out to be 94-68 in terms of victories. And then this is sometimes a telling tale too, the 1-run victories. So the lack of bullpen sometimes will impact the 1-run decisions between games. So the first one ends up in 94 victories to my team, 68 to Steve. I'm going to jot that down so I can keep track. And then I'm also going to go into a different screen and save the stats. And what we'll do is for whatever the deciding season is, we'll take a look at the stats as well. For the sake of time, we're not going to look at every season, but we'll do that for whatever the deciding season is. But let me go and save this. So now what we do is we will reset the stats and get ready for season 2. So reset statistics. We're going to delete all that since we already saved all that information. And we'll verify that to make sure we're back to 0, 0. And we are, and we're ready for season 2. Here we go. And for this one, we will stop midstream, more or less, just to see what the progress is along the way.
Ooh, rain out.
Oh, yeah. And it's hard to tell really what the progress is.
Yeah, you know.
Except we might have stalled out a little bit here. Let's see. Oh, there it is. All right, let's see where we're at right now. Let's stop it right there and see where we are at this stage of the season.
Oof.
All right. Oof. Yeah, that pitching is definitely catching up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was afraid of that.
Yeah. And you know what, Steve? I was not sure. I was not, you know,
I thought I had enough hitting to be competitive, but
that's what I thought. And when you bought the hitting that you bought after I bought Williams, you know, you were aggressive buying hitting right after Williams.
Yep.
And then when you bought all the good starting pitchers after Pedro, that's when I got concerned, because I thought, okay, he doesn't have Pedro, but he's got everybody else. And
strategy has worked before.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then when you were not able to round out that back end of the rotation, and then on top of that, you had spent a lot of money. So now you were at a disadvantage, not able to acquire the relief. And I think that's what made the difference.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep rolling here. This should take us straight to the end here. Yeah, we did have at least one rain out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll sim that last game.
There we go. That's gonna help.
Finished on a high note. Let's just take a look at that box score out of curiosity, right? Wow, one of the guys that I do not have in my starting rotation was thrown out.
Huh?
Was thrown out as a sacrificial lamb for the last game of the season. Wow. Yikes. All right, let's find out what the final tally was here. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We haven't seen those numbers in a while, actually. Yeah. All right. That wraps up season 2. Let me save the stats and we'll come back to start season 3. Okay. So we're back to season. Let's go to season 3 now. Let's eliminate the stats we just saved for season 2.
Yeah, it was forgettable.
Yeah, let's have a better season here. And by the way, it's interesting that you went with Dodger Brett. I like him. I've used him in some sims in the past. The manager didn't have anything to do with the results. I really think it was more your back end of the pitching. Yeah.
By drafting, yes.
Yeah. No, not even that. I thought your drafting went well. And at the end of the auction, I told you I didn't.
You had concerns.
I had concerns because I left $20 on the table.
Yeah.
But when I took a closer look at it, that back end, I knew before I started simming, after the auction, and I kind of got my bearings and started to really look at it, I really did think your pitching was going to hurt you. So before I started doing the sims, but at the end of the auction, I think I was probably too focused on the fact that I left $20 unspent.
Well,
but then you start to think though, Steve, let's just say I did spend those dollars. Let's say I became more aggressive in certain bids.
Yes.
That would have been that you would have had more money to spend against me too.
Yep.
So leaving money on the table if you make good buys is not the worst thing that could happen.
No, you stuck me with one hitter. I'm not going to say which one, but there was
Yeah.
one of them I didn't want,
Yeah,
and I got stuck with them.
Yeah,
And that money, again, you know how I go in on pitching.
right,
I underspent on pitching majorly compared to what I
Right.
normally do. So
right. And that's exactly what happens, because at
Yeah.
that point, you made the assumption that, and it's not a bad assumption. You're thinking, okay, he's got to get another hitter to complement, like another big time hitter to complement Williams.
Yep. I got to stop that from happening. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And that was your mindset, and I got it. And I
Yep.
think I know who the hitter was. And I almost
Wow.
went a little deeper. And
Yeah.
then I backed up.
I'm opening it now. I'm trying to remember the bid.
I'm thinking it was Fox. It was Fox or Cronin, I think.
Well, I didn't mind doubling up on the position because I have the DH. So
Yeah,
Cronin, I was going to move at third. Cronin was fine.
yeah. You know what? And I totally missed that on Cronin about third base. I was looking
Yeah.
at so many other things, and I totally forgot he qualified at third. And
It
I might
was
have gone a
somewhere-
little heavier on Cronin if I had remembered he qualified at third. I thought it might have been Fox that you were bidding me up
Fox
on.
was high. I wasn't going to go that high.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it could have been Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that is not a bad strategy. At that
No,
point, you're
no.
thinking, okay, he's got Williams, but he needs
Yeah.
somebody to complement him.
Yeah.
But when I looked at, again, after the auction, when I really scrutinized it a lot more careful, I actually had enough complementary pieces.
You did.
Offerman, Trot
Yeah.
Nixon, Booch
Yep.
Husky. I
Yep.
mean, there were
Yep.
enough guys, even
For
though I
sure.
missed out on a big time bat, there
Yep.
were enough other guys to complement it.
Yeah.
But again, and that's the thing about the auction, and you and I have done a bunch of these, but for
Mhm.
those who haven't done it, that's the beauty of it.
Yep.
You know what the values are more or less within a continuum, but then the dynamics of the auction force you to do things that you didn't expect. So you have to have like a plan B, a plan C,
Yep.
and that's what makes it exciting and really stimulating. All right, let me double check. I think I already deleted the stats. Yeah, let's double check. Okay, good. All right, let's get rolling with season 3 here.
Oof, 0-3, not a good start.
Sometimes that tells you the story, sometimes it doesn't. The sim is so fast, I can't keep up with it.
No, yeah, I can't either.
Yeah. All right, we should be approaching midway, I think. Let's see where we're at here.
Oof.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent, and it's interesting because, as you know, we've done so many auctions, so many sims, that when the teams are really competitive, you're going to see one team wins, another team wins, another team wins.
We've gone 7 games.
Yeah, it's gone 7 games. We've had a couple that have gone 8 or 9 games, 10 games even. But when there's a disparity, especially in pitching, it can really show up quickly.
Yep. I had no interest in getting Pedro or Ted Williams. I mean, I'd want them.
Yeah.
But I knew, for what I knew you'd pay, it wasn't worth it for me.
Yeah.
I didn't take a step back and say, okay, I got what I wanted. Now I have to work the pitching better.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I had coming in, and as you know, there are plenty of auctions where, honestly, till we get started, I am not totally sure what I'm going to do.
Yep.
Like a lot of my actions are dictated by the pricing.
Yeah.
Like what's
Mhm.
happening with the pricing then sort of dictates what road I go down.
And of course, the bigger amount of teams, the larger amount of teams, I am more way open to things because there's just too many wild cards.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like for example, you won three sim auctions in a row where we had an extra real team to put together three. We have four real teams to put together three sim teams.
Yep.
And the strategy that you used, which was really aggressive, was you went real heavy on the pitching.
Yep.
Knowing that even though you were not going to get any of the star hitters, there was still going to be enough hitting left to put together a good team. And kudos to you for identifying that, because I told you already, I would not have had the courage to do that because it was just, in my mind, it was just too risky. Yeah. But you said, the heck with risk.
I always lose. What's one more time? You know,
no, it was impressive. I mean, you nailed it. You nailed it. Three in a row. And I think on the last one, you spent something like $185 on pitching.
It was more than 50%. Yeah.
Yeah. It was impressive. Yeah. All right. Let's see if we got any rainouts. It looks like we don't on this one. So the final tally for season 3 is a little closer on this one, but
only 24.
93 on this one.
I played better on the road.
There you go. All right. So let me save these stats and we'll do season 4 in a minute. All right, we're back for our season 4 simulation. Let's reset these stats. And we'll start season 4 right now. And it's interesting, you mentioned you didn't have any interest in Pedro and Williams. When I was thinking about the different options and different strategies, I really just had 2 in mind. It was either going to be what I ended up doing, Pedro and Williams, and then filling in the rest with or what you did, get the best starting pitchers after Pedro. Now the only difference in my game plan was I was going to get relief.
Right.
And that's the part. So in other words, what you did was really the only other option that could have been followed, really.
Well, I could have split. I could have said, I'm getting Pedro no matter what, and I don't care if you get Williams.
Right. You could have done
that
too.
But I felt putting you in a hole financially was going to be a bigger advantage for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Or go for them and then sit around and hope you don't stick me with anybody.
Right.
Because I couldn't just let you get guys for cheap. I had to drive up the price.
Exactly.
Right.
No, exactly. Yeah. Well, and it was the same situation for me. Once I got Pedro, I needed to make sure that you were. My assumption was you had to get some pitching, right?
Right.
So I had to make you not overpay, but pay a fair price for the remaining.
Overpaid
pitchers.
for 2 of them. Yeah,
but not too much. Just
not horribly. Not horribly.
Yeah, no, it was fair. All right, so let's see what the final season turns out to be here for us. Let's make sure we don't have any rainouts.
How do you know it's the final season?
Oh, good point. I might be completely off here. But normally when we see these kind of results, usually it doesn't break the trend, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yep. It was almost a duplicate of the last one.
Duplicate, yeah.
Even
better on the road though this time.
Yeah, good point. But look at those 1-run games though. Yeah.
But it's only 6. It's not horrible.
No, you're right. It's actually not even as bad as it was for the prior simulation that we did, where I didn't get enough relief. Yeah. All right, let me save these stats, and then for this last one, I do want to show the leaders and the best performers. All right, let's bring up the stats and we'll take a look at the performance of this final season. Let me share this screen. All right. So this first batch of stats is the starting pitchers. Let's just sort this by, I think, probably innings would be our best option here.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the difference maker.
Yep.
Pedro Martinez, a 176 ERA. And
Phenomenal.
for all of those that like those old school stats, that 25-4 sure does look pretty.
Cy Youngish.
But fantastic. And then the other difference is going to be Derek Lowe.
Yep.
And let me see what Cormier and Garces did in terms
they're
of.
down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, Garces. Yeah, 129 ERA for 50 innings. That's huge.
Phenomenal.
And Cormier, not great,
No.
but still in the context of the available pitchers, I'm still glad I got him.
Yeah.
And then in terms of what hurt you, Wilson killed you.
Yep.
He was you had him slotted, and to be fair, a lot of that is because he was not always, but probably a good portion of the time facing Pedro.
Yes.
So you can understand that, but still that ERA has nothing to do with Pedro.
No.
So that clobbered you.
Yep.
And then I think probably, and actually let me sort it by games started, because besides Wilson, I have a feeling that you needed another person to complement Saberhagen and Wilson.
I was hoping to get one and it wasn't there.
Yeah. Let me just do game started, because I think besides Wilson, there's going to be another person here that clobbered you as well. Let's see. We know about Wilson. Yeah, Blair was pretty brutal too.
Yeah, and that was I just wanted to make sure I had 1,400 innings, and
you needed him for the innings. Yeah.
I mean it was over, but I just wanted to make sure I had an extra guy.
Well, and I think it was the right move, because again, Wilson wasn't going to give you a complete complement of innings, and neither was Saberhagen. So no matter what, you needed more starting pitcher innings. Yeah. So anyway, the bottom line is Pedro phenomenal. And then the relief on my end definitely helped, and then obviously on your end, that's I think what was the difference maker.
Yeah.
Wagner, not bad, 4.71 ERA.
Nope.
Yeah. So all right, so that gives you and by the way, everybody who I'll add the total results in terms of a spreadsheet on the video notes. But just wanted to have a quick peek at these numbers, because obviously if you enjoy baseball, you enjoy looking at stats. So that takes care of the pitching. Let's go into hitting, what I call hitting quality. So let's sort by let's sort by OPS here.
Oof.
And there you go.
51.
A 1,400 OPS. I mean, that's historic. 451 in real life, he batted 406. So when you factor in, again, the weaker back end pitching, and that raised Williams' batting average even higher than in real life. And obviously 1,400 is, I mean, that's all time numbers. That's higher than Barry Bonds' record, I believe. So huge. And then when you go a little bit deeper than that, again, there were some complementary pieces to my team too. DiMaggio, Dahlback, and Steve. Frankly, you had hitters that performed okay for you.
Yep.
Garcia was they were fine. Fox was fine. So it's not that your hitters didn't perform. It was really more the pitching piece. All right, so that covers the quality percentage type stats. Let's go into the quantitative stats. Now let's just sort that by home runs. And no surprise there. I mean, Williams just a massive year, but look at O'Leary. And O'Leary, when you purchased O'Leary, I thought you might have paid a little bit more than you should have for him, but you know what? He performed excellent.
Yeah.
And there you go with those.
Husky and Dahlback.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't get Fox, I didn't get Cronin, two guys that I really targeted after Williams. But again, I did get enough to be able to drive in Williams. So yeah. And then the last one I wanted to share with everybody here was and one other thing, in this particular auction, speed was not a huge deal, but there were still some guys that did okay. DiMaggio stole 22 bases. Garcia Parra had an excellent ratio, but obviously speed was really not going to be a concern here, like some of the other auctions that we've had with Ricky Henderson and Joe Morgan and the like.
That's a draft I want to do again.
We can certainly do that.
Wow.
And I might have found a way to get Billy Martin out of the doghouse. So I'll share more about that with you. And then the last one here is just a summary, which shows you how the teams performed. Obviously, in terms of run differential, this last season was, let me do some quick math here, 23, 181 in terms of plus minus. So I had a plus 181, you had a minus 181 in run differential.
A lot.
Yeah. And then, the big difference, obviously, the pitching, 4.12 ERA to 5.48. Not as much of a difference hitting wise, but still a substantial difference.
I mean, look at the quality starts. I mean, they were close.
Yeah, you're right.
You're
right. So let me stop sharing here. And again, everybody, thank you for taking a look at the video. And if you're interested in conducting an auction, again, I have every team and the data in baseball history available. In this particular one, I thought we did something that I want to explore going forward. I like the idea of keeping it to franchises, so two great teams from one franchise.
Yep.
I think there's an appeal to that, so we might do a few more of those going forward. So if you're a team of a particular team, again, a fan of a particular team, I have all the teams available. So there's all kinds of permutations that we could get together. So until next time, see you at another sim auction.